You've been told the grid can't handle electric vehicles. Not enough capacity, too much strain, serious risk. But here's the part no one's talking about. The same people making that argument are approving projects that use far more power, and they're doing it at the exact same time. I'm Bo Kaufman, and this is the Sanity Project. In this segment, we're not talking about theory or projections. We're looking at a real-world example that exposes a very clear contradiction. In Saskatchewan, grid capacity has been used as a reason to slow electric vehicle adoption. But at the same time, large-scale infrastructure projects with massive energy demands are being approved without hesitation. To break this down, here's energy systems specialist Dr. Emily Carter, with a closer look at what's actually happening and why the numbers tell a very different story than the narrative. Let's listen to her report.
There is a persistent warning making its way through the political ecosystem. The idea that the transition to electric vehicles is going to overwhelm and eventually trigger a blackout across the national power grid. Across the country, lawmakers are actively citing this fear of grid collapse to push back against EV mandates and slow down consumer adoption. But the actual data points to a very different stress test. Overall electricity consumption for artificial intelligence data centers is on track to double within just 5 years. In 2025 alone, power demand specifically tied to these AI facilities surged by 50%. This chart illustrates the difference in trajectory. The projected energy demand for electric vehicles is a gradual, predictable climb over the next 12 years. In contrast, AI consumption is a steep, immediate vertical spike. The same lawmakers warning that we cannot generate enough electricity for passenger cars are simultaneously facilitating the most power-hungry infrastructure in human history. To understand exactly how this policy contradiction operates, we have to examine the decisions currently unfolding in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's provincial government frequently points to grid capacity limits as a primary reason to resist the adoption of electric vehicles. Yet in March of 2026, the province greenlit a $1.7 billion, 90,000 square foot artificial intelligence data campus just outside Regina. The facility is being built by Bell Canada, specifically to host computing hardware for American AI firms like Cerebras and CoreWeave. Once fully operational, this single campus will require 300 megawatts of continuous, always-on baseload power drawn straight from the provincial grid. This technical diagram demonstrates an industrial AI site pulling an enormous, concentrated load from a single distribution point. Conversely, electric vehicles create dispersed, flexible loads across various neighborhood feeders, drawing power overnight when overall demand is lowest. A power system stretched to its absolute limit by neighborhood charging somehow found 300 megawatts of spare capacity to hand over to a hyperscale facility. That massive amount of power has to come from somewhere. Because the clean grid lacks the capacity, the province is relying on a $2.6 billion program to refurbish its aging coal plants. The estimated cost for that coal infrastructure has nearly tripled since 2025, and public ratepayers are footing the bill. To cover these mounting capital investments, SaskPower requested rate increases of nearly 4% for both 2026 and 2027. Independent analysis by the Institute for Research on Public Policy revealed that the province committed these crown infrastructure assets without any formal negotiation framework, no competitive bidding process, or public disclosure of the rate. In exchange for this scarce energy, the public secured zero binding local employment guarantees and no enforceable data sovereignty provisions. If those American tech tenants decide to leave, the $10 billion worth of computing hardware leaves with them. Local citizens are left absorbing the multi-billion-dollar financial risk of upgrading the grid, while foreign tech companies extract the highly lucrative computational value. The engineering math simply does not align. A power grid cannot be on the brink of collapse from drivers plugging in cars at night, while simultaneously possessing enough slack to absorb a 300-megawatt, always-on AI campus. The electrical grid is a finite, deeply valuable public resource, and right now, that capacity is being actively siphoned. When officials cite grid strain, they are really making a policy choice about who gets priority access to the power we already generate. The narrative targeting consumer electric vehicles functions as a highly effective distraction. It keeps public scrutiny focused on neighborhood driveways, allowing massive corporate computing infrastructure to connect directly to the baseload without debate. The next time a politician warns that your car is going to cause a blackout, check to see whose massive coal-backed data center they just approved behind the scenes.
So this isn't really about grid capacity, it's about priorities. When electric vehicles are framed as a threat, but large-scale energy projects move forward without resistance or even discussion, the inconsistency becomes impossible to ignore. Because the issue isn't whether the grid can handle new demand, it's which demand gets approved and which gets questioned. If you want more breakdowns like this, where we follow the data and call out the contradictions, follow the Sanity Project.
If you want more facts and less fear, hit subscribe. Check out the next breakdown wherever you're listening or watching. Stay sane, Canada.